Hey guys, alright, today we are back with another alternate history hub. This time we're checking out the world of the man in the high castle, alternate World War II scenario. This is an older video of his, so there's probably going to be some, it's a 6-minute video to explain at least in terms of the TV show, a fairly in-depth thing that happened. Somewhat, they don't really talk about it much. I thought the show was good up until the literal last episode. I thought season 4 was the best, and then they screwed it up with the last episode, in my opinion. I thought the previous seasons were okay. I really like season 1. Obviously, the carry of the show is fucking John Smith. Goddamn, that actor is fucking amazing. But aside from that, yeah, I have nothing else to say. Let's go ahead and dive into the world of Man in the High Castle, where the U.S. is split between the Japanese and German Reich.
Alternate history can make very good fiction, and creating a world where certain events changed is an interesting story.
His voice is so different. I think this is one of his definite, like, older videos, and God, his voice is so... He sounds as if... I know he's older than me. I don't know how much older Cody of Alternate History Hub is than me, but I think maybe he was high school age when this came out, because I would have been. Maybe he's only a year older. Maybe he's the same age as me. I don't know.
Which is why the genre has had success over the years.
He sounds like a high schooler in this.
To do so. One of the most famous alternate history novels is The Man in the High Castle by Philip K. Dick. Set in an alternate 1962 where the Axis powers won World War II. Not only have they defeated the Allies, but the countries of Nazi Germany, Italy, and Japan took over the...
I just love that. Canada. It's just Canada. I thought I saw a map where Canada was annexed entirely.
Entire world. The story tells the perspective of multiple people living in a defeated United States. But they aren't who we care about. What we care about is the scenario. Dick's perspective on this Axis world is dark and disturbing, and provides a harsh look at how things could have been had America, Britain, and Russia lost the war. In Dick's world, everything would have changed. Literally everything. So in this video, we are going to explore Dick's scenario, and break it down piece by piece to shove it into your green.
Hold on, I like this. There's a little bit of symbolism here in this. At least, it looks as if this is like a yin and yang symbol, kind of. Like this would be, there's some light, like, one of the things, at least in the TV show that it's painted as, is that the Japanese are painted, they're obviously, you know, the Japanese government as a whole is trying to be better, or at least there's more of a movement inside Japan where they're trying to fix themselves and be a better nation, whereas Germany, the Nazis. But what this seems to me is like yin and yang, where there's light inside the darkness of Nazi Germany or Nazi America, and then there's darkness inside the light of what is supposed to be Japanese America. Maybe I'm probably looking too in depth to it. I don't know what's in my brain right now. I just got done working out, so I'm very sweaty and I'm very tired. So maybe this is just my tired brain. So yeah, minute into the video, and okay, this is how today's video is going to go, guys.
Greedy little mind. The scenario starts off in 1963 when President Roosevelt is assassinated before he ever is able to become a strong president or implement his policy.
I think he means 1933, because I took a look. I never take a look at the comments before a video, but I looked at the ones today just because it's such an older video, and I think YouTube killed annotations, and when there were annotations, the comments say that he said 1933 here, so I'm not gonna diss Cody on that mistake. It happens. It's a 6-year-old video.
The following presidents, John Garner and later John Bricker, are very weak and destabilize the United States. Without a central leader in the Depression, the US falls into a hole, while Nazi Germany and Japan grow stronger. The US bows to the whim of the...
Yes, that's one thing I think you can definitely say about FDR. You can disagree with the policies and actions that he took. You can obviously look at it with hindsight and say, oh, if he had done this, maybe the depression would have been recovered faster, right? Because it was ultimately World War II that took the United States out of the depression, because that provided a means for Americans to work and things to produce and sell to the other nations of the world. That fixes an economy. But FDR was definitely a strong leader, even though he couldn't walk.
Axis powers, staying isolationist and out of European affairs. Since their economy is weak, the Americans are unable to supply the British and Russians in their war against Germany. Quickly, the Nazis are able to conquer both Britain and the USSR by 1941.
That's a bit extreme. I wouldn't say that they were able to do that by 1941. I could see, because I think the most realistic scenario out of all this, if the United States does not have a strong leader to lead it through the Depression and the economy of America just halts, is there would be no fear of a land invasion, of a naval invasion from the Allies. Germany could then divert resources and manpower from the Atlantic Wall and push them to the Eastern Front and focus pretty much entirely on the Eastern Front. Divert like no resources whatsoever to the Western Front because it's not needed, because Britain does not have the manpower to sustain a naval invasion of the scale that would be needed to land and supply a successful invasion of France. Like, it was, the United States was very important in that because of the supply and manpower that it could produce, in my opinion.
Japanese allied with Germany take this opportunity to attack the US in a larger attack against Pearl Harbor. America's Pacific Fleet is wiped out in a single day, and soon Japan invades Hawaii. In the next few years, the two powers invade America from both sides, with Japan conquering the West Coast and Germany annexing east of the Mississippi. By 1947, all opponents of the Axis powers, including the US, surrender. In the following decades,
No. I know he's not addressing the unlikelihood of these scenarios because this is an older video and it's only 6 minutes, but I'm going to. Another thing about that, though, that I kind of disagree with Philip K. Dick, and obviously, you know, he has to have these things happen so that he can tell the story that he wants to tell. And that's great. I don't care about that. I'm still just going to look at it from a very critical lens. It is interesting to me. Well, not interesting. It's impossible to invade the United States. Like, even if it was an economically halted United States, the amount of guns that Americans have in the 1940s. Like, you think we own a lot of guns now? I think on average, more households back in the 40s, on average, had a gun than today. I think more families, on an average, compared from back then to today, despite, you know, the United States having a lot more guns today. I think back then, each family pretty much had a fucking gun. So, yeah, there's that. And just the distance that it would take for them to supply a landing, it's just impossible. I think it's more, not necessarily that they would be met with American resistance. I think it's more of the fact that the amount of resources and ships needed that it would take to land and maintain a foothold on American soil is damn near impossible.
The world becomes much different, as the Axis face relatively no major opposition to their plans. Japan expands its borders to Oceania, Australia, mainland China, and all of Southeast Asia. Japan sets up a white puppet government on the West Coast, called the Pacific States of America. Japan culturally changes the West Coast, making it infused with both American and Eastern cultures. A mass migration of citizens from Japan occurs, changing the demographics of the states. However, even though Japan does control the American West Coast, they are relatively light rulers compared to their Nazi counterparts.
Yes.
Surprisingly, even though they're an empire, Japan has liberalized in the 20 years since the war. As in our timeline, how Americans today prize Native American artifacts, so do the Japanese colonists prize pre-war Americana. In Europe, the story is much darker than in our timeline. In Dick's scenario, the Nazis shape the entire continent and landscape in their image, reshaping the world around them with scientific advancements and horrifying policies. Because of 20 years of German engineering, technology has progressed far beyond the 1960s of our timeline. In Dick's scenario, the Germans have already colonized the moon and set up manned exploration of Mars. To gain more land, the Germans drained the Mediterranean Sea, turning it into a fertile farmland. However, these scientific and engineering works come at a terrible price. With nobody to question the Nazi policies, a mega holocaust occurs.
Yep. I want to. What I find funny about the brief mention of Antletropa, I think was the plan to drain the Mediterranean. Cody of Alternate History Hub would go on to write an alternate scenario world where that fucking happens. I still have not read that book. I kind of want to, but sci-fi books are not necessarily my speed. I'm more into fantasy because you guys know me. I'm a early medieval historian, so yeah. But if any of you have actually read his book, tell me how it is, if you liked it or not. I'm curious.
After Germany conquers Russia, Poland, and Eastern Europe.
Fucking
Hitler's plan of Lebensraum is...
This is honestly probably the most terrifying part of the scenario. Hitler wins, and he's able to conduct a mass Holocaust.
Actually put into effect. The only comparison this can be is the Native Americans and the Europeans. Slavic people in Dick's scenario are murdered into extinction. Millions and millions of people wiped out in a genocide. Russian culture and Eastern Orthodox religion is non-existent. Poland, Russia, and...
Oh, Eastern Orthodox. I don't know why I always think of Greek Orthodox and Eastern Orthodox as kind of the same. How similar is Greek Orthodox and Eastern Orthodox? I have a lot of questions this video, because I don't know.
Slavic lands are destroyed and replaced with German colonists. Hitler's Aryan race grows and replaces the ruins of Moscow and Russia. Any few Slavic survivors live in Native American-style reservations out in Siberia. The Mega Holocaust also expands into Africa, where Nazi Germany in 1962 is leading a genocide against Native Africans. Germany as well brings back African slavery in both Europe and the United States. Which, oh boy, leads us to Nazi-occupied America.
I don't remember the African slavery bit.
After the United States fell, it was reduced to east of the Mississippi, where a Nazi puppet government replaced American democracy, implementing Nazi policies in the US. From the context, the Holocaust came to the United States, wiping out anyone deemed unworthy by Nazi standards. What used to be the United States is split into three nations: the Japanese-controlled Pacific States, the Nazi-controlled United States, and the Free States of America. Free States is basically a buffer zone between the two superpowers. Americans don't know life before the war, and those that do are either too brainwashed or find it too hard to imagine a world without Axis domination. Young Americans in Dick's novel accept the status quo and grow up not knowing the culture of pre-war America. They think that an Allied victory would have led to a communist victory. Oh yeah, and Canada? Canada just remained Canada. They literally didn't change at all. It's just Canada. Really, Mr. Dick? Really? Like us on Facebook.
Why is that a thing? Why did Canada just get to exist? Damn Canadians and their maple syrup.
Facebook, subscribe.
Alright, that is the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Yeah, as I said, the world of the Man in the High Castle, at least in terms of reaching America, is of course highly implausible, highly unlikely to, like, you have to be very generous to the Axis and to the Axis powers for them to be capable of reaching the United States and even maintaining a foothold there. The sheer logistical nightmare that it would be in just reaching the United States is highly impossible, and landing. Not even mentioning trying to secure that foothold, that landing base, that landing platform that you're going to spread out from into the United States. So, yeah, I mean, I think most likely, honestly, Canada would probably be the better place to invade from, because it's more spread out of a land. You could probably set up a base in the north to then use as a staging area to go to invade further south. In my opinion, that's like my Hearts of Iron strategy. Yeah, that was the World of the Man in the High Castle alternate World War II scenario by Alternate History Hub. I hope you guys enjoyed. Remember to hit that like button and subscribe for more, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.